Welcome to The Art of Hunting, a podcast that explores the world of wildlife art through the eyes of one of the industry's most talented creators, Ryan Kirby. So whether you're a fellow artist, designer, hunter, or simply someone who appreciates the beauty of the natural world, join us on The Art of Hunting with Ryan Kirby and discover the passion and dedication that drives him.
We need to get you to like DJ the studio one day.
Okay.
Like the studio and warehouse, especially around Christmas time when we're shipping a bunch of orders.
Yeah, and we're all playing.
Yeah, you can be like the DJ.
I'll play my wedding playlist.
No, don't do that.
You won't like it.
Have you started that yet?
Yeah.
Be an ultimate planner, wedding playlist.
Mm-hmm. I've got a playlist, and Cole he can edit and add to it.
Okay.
I've added all these like songs from like Dirty Dancing or all these like romantic songs, and he's put "Come On Feel the Noise" by Poison or whoever that is. I think it's Poison.
Yeah.
And then he put this one David Allan Coe song on there called "You Didn't Even Call Me by My Name" or something. And I wanted to put, I don't even remember. It was basically a breakup song, and my mom was like, "You can't put that on there." And I said, "He put this stupid country song that is about, you didn't even call me by my name. It's a sad breakup song, but I can't put this rock breakup song on it. That's unfair." And
I love it.
yeah.
I still want to have you guys on to talk about buying hunting property.
Okay.
Your first marriage conversation. It's going to be great.
Yay. Oh.
Well, I think, as you like to say, we're going to have to land this plane. Get this podcast going because we BS the whole time so far.
Yeah. Okay. We're talking about how to create work that sells today. So
I have no idea.
Yeah, right? When we talked about this, I was like, I don't know how this is going to really go. I guess we could talk about like our warehouse and
there's all kinds of stuff we can talk about.
Stuff like that. I guess mainly I'll start with like how long have you technically been self-employed and doing your own small business?
I have been self-employed, I think 11 years now.
Wow.
I think 2012 was when I left the Turkey Federation. Maybe before that. Might have been, no, it's about 2012.
Okay.
So right at 11 years, and I studied graphic design and multimedia in college. We've talked about that a little bit, but people might not know. And graphic design is basically layouts. Like if you look at a print ad, if you look at a catalog, you look at a magazine, you look at any billboards, any printed form, you have to have somebody in the background combining the photography, the type, and creating the message visually for that. So that's graphic design. When back in those days, multimedia was like the early forms of web design. So Flash, Dreamweaver, animation work. That was really when things were starting to go online, and you could tell that's where the world was headed. But the programs hadn't quite caught up yet. They were a little clunky. And that's what I studied in college, and then I got a job as a designer and illustrator for the National Wild Turkey Federation, and that was pretty much the main bulk of my training was there. What I did though is I got a really good glimpse into the outdoor industry. I met a bunch of artists that were working there. Their art had gotten picked into the Turkey Federation's core pack, so what I would go do is kind of buddy up to them and talk to them and hang out with them because they would be in town at headquarters in Edgefield signing their prints. So they'd be there for 2 days signing 2,000 prints. And obviously they need a break every now and then. So I'd talk to them and help them out if they needed it. And so I got to see firsthand right there, you could see art that was selling. You know, that was a popular enough piece that the Turkey Federation picked it up in their core package. But I also made a lot of really good friends at the Turkey Federation that I ended up working with later on down the road. So the Turkey Fed then was kind of like a springboard, like it was like a revolving door of talent.
Yeah.
They would hire us from when we were young all over the country, and then a lot of times people would leave after a couple years and go work for an agency or another organization or a marketing department somewhere and kick freelance work back to me. So I made a lot of sort of inroads into the industry as a whole based on the people that I met there, because we all worked together and then we all branched out. So, I learned a lot of marketing, a lot of product development, a lot of the behind the scenes on how things are brought to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And very rarely do people realize that if you see something at retail or you see something in print, print magazines are done months in advance of when they're actually in mailboxes.
Yeah.
And product is done at least a year in advance of when it hits retail. And as a designer, I helped those companies formulate their ad creative, formulate their messaging, do photo shoots, stuff like that. So I got to understand how product came to be, the whole process of it. I'd have companies send me prototype product that wasn't even finalized yet, or and that's where my skill as a designer came in, because a lot of times it was, hey, this is not finalized yet. This part's going to be bigger. This is going to be blue. This is going to be brass instead of nickel plated. This and that and the other. And as a designer, I would have to handle the photo shoots, art direct them, and then change those to meet what the product was actually going to look like. So that required some Photoshop skill in addition to just the general branding and advertising of it. So it really has helped me a lot see the whole process of a product, a marketing, all of that through, and even revisions of that product. If a product becomes new and improved, we have to look at the features that made it great, and then how we improved upon that. So that has really helped me a lot, probably more than I realize, working with brands to create stuff like that. And even like legal departments. I've worked with some big companies, and you have to have everything that is released to the public has to go through their legal department first and be signed off on, and has to be spot on, because if you put something out there into the public that's not right, or a copyright violation or something like that, you get them in trouble.
Yeah.
So I've learned pretty much all of the things that I need to run my own business. I learned helping other businesses advertise their product, which has helped.
When you were in college, was the goal like to work for a big, like the Turkey Federation, or was the goal like to do your own thing? Do you know?
I have no idea. That's a great conversation for how to sell art. No, I went through a phase in college where I really did not know who I was, who I wanted in what I wanted in life. I didn't know any of that stuff. And I started out, I went to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and Bradley's a big engineering school. That's where, am I hot? You're hot. Let me get closer. I watched, no, I'm kidding. I was watching, doing this podcast, I pay attention to stuff now, and I was watching Ted Lasso the other night, and Kim and I love that show. And the British announcers at the soccer games, they have they like physically hold it up to their mouth, and there's like a piece that holds it right here. So when they're talking, they're,
oh my gosh,
talking like that. And I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But that's probably what I was like. Super hot here. Super hot, Mike. No, you're good, man. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was actually the valedictorian of my high school of 49 kids. So, and the reason that I could afford Bradley was a private school, and there's no way I could have afforded it, but they had a half tuition automatic paid if you were valedictorian, whether that was 2 or 200 people.
Wow.
So I kind of lucked out there because I didn't have a whole lot of competition. I didn't have that many kids in my class. So I got into Bradley, and Bradley was a big engineering school. Caterpillar, at the time, their global headquarters was in Peoria, and they pumped a lot of money into the engineering programs, the communication programs, which graphic design and multimedia fell under the communication programs. And when I started, I was going to be an engineer. I started out on an engineering track. And then because I had, some ability in fine art, but like, what do you do with that? I have no idea. And I was a farm kid. I had no clue how to make a living off of art.
Yeah.
So I was thinking I'm going to be an engineer, and didn't really care for that, even though I do kind of have a knack for it. So I got into the graphic design program, and I figured I'll develop some marketable skills within the realm of art, learn some technology, pick it up from there. And I really liked it. I liked some of my professors there. Well, then it got to be like my sophomore year, and I was like, I really don't know what I want to do. And then junior year came, and I was like, I do not know what I want to do. And I knew that one of the abilities that I had that other design students didn't was the ability to draw and paint. Graphic design is fundamentally done on a computer, on a Mac. And so there's people that can't draw at all, but are great designers. They just have a knack for it. And so I started thinking about ways that I could use my skill as an artist, like a fine artist, to help with that. And I looked at medical illustration. And at the time, this would have been, early 2000s, 2003, 2004. You didn't have a lot of digital animation. You didn't have iPads that you could draw. None of that was there. And when you go into a doctor's office, like, you see illustrations of the vascular system, the lungs, the heart. Well, somebody sat down and drew that and created that. And I thought I could do medical illustration because I liked, anatomy, physiology. I had a talent for drawing, and then I had some skill, some digital illustration. And I thought I could do that. So I got on that track.
Wow.
And at one point, so there were 4 schools that offered a program in medical illustration. Michigan, Johns Hopkins, I feel like Savannah College of Art and Design, and there was one more. There was only 4 programs in the country that had it. And it was a master's level degree. You would go, it was after undergrad. And I started looking up the requirements. Well, you had to have biology, you had to have all that kind of stuff in your undergrad to even be accepted. It wasn't a talent-based deal. And what you did is you basically went through med school with doctors, but instead of learning it to operate on it, you learned it to draw it.
Wow.
Like, you would do the work on cadavers, and you would do all kinds of stuff like that. And so I started, I started, at one point I had a major and 3 minors. So I was so confused. Looking back, I was like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I had so much anxiety over what I was going to do, and I had to have all the parts and pieces together. And I was always kind of like a straight-laced kid, and it made me nervous to know that, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So to pick up all these requirements, I had a graphic design major with a minor in multimedia, painting, and biology, if I remember right.
Oh gosh.
Because I had to hit all these undergrad requirements, and I learned this later, so I had to be like scrambling to pick up all these classes. Well, chemistry sucked. I didn't like that. And the other thing I started to realize was you basically go through med school, but you don't get paid like a doctor. You're literally sitting alongside med school students learning the same stuff, the same chemistry, the same biology, but you're just drawing the stuff and illustrating it afterwards. So I think you started at like 80 to 100, which was good then, but like, it's not the, I don't know, 300 or 400 a doctor would make. You'd cap out at that. So I was like, man, I don't like the chemistry stuff. I don't want to go through med school. I don't know if I want to do this. And so I ended up backing out, and I ended up graduating with a degree in graphic design and multimedia. So then got on at the Turkey Federation, and that's kind of where everything went from there.
Yeah.
But I was that kid that was like paralyzed, like had so many credits and crap like that because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, medical illustration. And now it's a lot of digital. It's a lot of, nobody wants to see a 2D replica of the vascular system. They want to like take a drone through your veins and stuff. I mean, that's the level, that's how advanced things are now. So it's a lot of computer animation. You know, Pixar wasn't a thing back in the early 2000s, not to the level they are now. Now you can animate all that stuff and make it look real and
freaky.
I probably would have phased myself out of a job if I did.
Yeah.
If I would have gone that route, I would have had to have gotten into like 3D animation, because I'm not sure it really even exists anymore.
Yeah.
Everything's 3D.
Interesting. What really, I guess, what really kind of triggered you to go towards selling like products? So like, can you go into that story and background? Like, how did you go from just, oh, I'm just gonna paint?
Well, what I did was, you know, the other thing about artists too is a lot of the artists that study in college, they're either on a teaching track or, well, most of them are on a teaching track. A lot of them are either going to graduate and they may go to work for an agency, but a lot of them are going to teach, like high school. The ones that go on that get a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, or MFA, Master of Fine Arts, they're on track to teach as a professor, which I have my opinions on that. I think it's kind of lame. Like my best professors in college were ones that had full-time jobs and understood how the world works, and then came and taught at night, because those professors like taught you, look, this is how the world's going to work, and these are the skills that you need to know. This is what you need to know to get ahead. A lot of my actual professors, especially the fine arts, they kind of lived in a dream world. Like academia paid their salary, and so they didn't necessarily, they weren't paid by results. They weren't paid by delivery. They were just kind of paid to be in academia forever, and they never got out. So what they would do is they would teach, and then that salary helped fund their art on the side. So they were kind of like freelancing. A lot of them have their own exhibitions and stuff, but I didn't really learn much from them. You know, in college, it's all about, especially in art school, they want you to push your creativity and push your limits and try this and try that. And it's all kind of wishy-washy. It serves a purpose, but you never land the plane like you talk about. So I had a professor in college, a painting professor, and he would come in stoned all the time to critiques. Like, I mean, just all the freaking, and you know, I'm over here painting like a green-winged teal in flight.
Yeah.
And then over here, we have a nursing student who just wants to throw paint at the wall to experiment with Jackson Pollock, you know, on the side. And my professor's over there baked, wearing sunglasses, fried out of his mind at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday. And, you know, the nursing student puts her paint splatters up there, and he's talking about how great it is, and it's so wonderful and so expressive, and I can feel your subconscious, and, you know, and then I put my ducks up there, and it's like crickets chirping, you know? And I'm the outcast because I'm like really trying to do representational work, and you know, he's fried, you know, he looks at the Jackson Pollock thing and sees a cheeseburger in it.
Right.
And I'm over here like trying to actually learn how to paint. And it was worthless, really. I had some professors that were really good and taught me, like, I had a life drawing professor, and we would draw nude models in class. And he was really good, taught me a lot of the fundamentals and a lot of anatomy things that carried over into wildlife art too. But some of the professors were just like, it's like, dude, this is stupid. Like, this is pointless. I'm wasting my time here. You're wasting your time. But overall, a lot of those students, especially the fine art ones, would go to teach. And so, in a way, it just kind of perpetuates that cycle. And I was more interested in the design because I could get results. There was a point to it. I had to communicate something. I had deadlines. I had to land the plane every time. I keep using that analogy, but I had to deliver something of value, I guess. And if it all boils down to that, I had to deliver something of value, and that's what relates most to me. And that's where that's where I got into producing some of the print products that we do. But when I first went out on my own, I was doing a lot of freelance work for companies in the outdoor industry. Winchester and Browning have been my biggest clients for years. Archery Trade Association, all kinds of companies in the outdoor industry. And I would do freelance work, and then I would paint like nights and weekends or whenever the phone wasn't ringing on that. And I had painted nights and weekends, like literally nights and weekends when I was at the Turkey Federation. But when I went out on my own, I had some more time. I might have Monday through Tuesday and no other projects till Wednesday. But in those days, I remember there were some lean years. I think I had $60,000 of work lined up under contract when I left the Turkey Federation. And I thought that'll get me a year and I can figure it out after that. And there were some lean months. I remember a few months where I had, $3,000, $4,000 worth of bills going out and $500 coming in. And that was a lot of money to me back then. Obviously we have a much bigger operation and we burned through that in a week here. But back then that was a lot. And I would take on, I took anything on, anything that I felt my skill level, my skill that resonated with my skill set. And it was in the industry I took on. I remember one time I did an engine illustration for Popular Mechanics, and I still have that illustration. We can overlay it here. But I met Will Brantley, who had worked for Field Stream and Outdoor Life and Bonnier, the company, the parent company that owned all those magazines. I knew him and knew he wrote for Field and Stream Outdoor Life, and I said, "Hey man, can you put me in contact with their art director or their editorial staff? I'd love to do some work for you," because I'd worked in the editorial realm before and I understood hunting, and so I felt like I could help him out, and I was looking for clients then. And he's like, "Yeah, man, let me put you in touch with Pete." So Pete was the one of the art directors for Bonnier at the time. He's like, "Man, we don't have anything. Our stable's pretty full for those, but I have an engine illustration I need." And so what they do is they give you a little test deal, like a quarter of a page illustration. So if you turn in a turd and this thing sucks, they can delete it, fill it in with copy, and it's not that big of a deal. So he gave me this engine illustration, and basically they send you what they call scrap, and it could be a rough photo. A lot of time these editors, they'll do like a chicken scratch drawing on a napkin or bar napkin or a piece of paper and take a picture and send it to you. But they had taken a picture of the engine cut out, and they needed me to do vector artwork illustration over the top and like isolate the headers and stuff like that. So I went to work on that, and again, I wasn't that busy. I was really anxious and eager to prove myself, and I think the thing was it was like $250 or $300, and it took me like 2 days. Like I poured my soul into it. And Pete was like, "Dude, this is amazing, and you did so well. We've got to pay you more for this because I know what this kind of work takes." And you did overkill. So they actually paid me more for that, which in editorial is kind of unheard of. So I really I prided myself on being the guy that delivered, that hit deadlines, that did what he said he was going to do, that made things happen, and that made their lives easier. Because working in editorial, I know that everybody's on a deadline. Everybody's got a boss breathing down their neck. Everybody's got something happening. And I figured that if I was the artist that did good work, but almost as importantly made their life easier and didn't miss deadlines and, give them my dog ate my homework excuse, I'd keep getting more and more work. And I did, because once I got in, see a lot of those art directors and not the editors. The editors really have to know their stuff. The guys and gals that write the copy have got to know their stuff. But the art crew rotated magazines. So like they might have been working on Popular Mechanics at one point, but they'd go lay out Outdoor Life the next. The editors have to know broadheads and this and that and the other, and the editors of Popular Mechanics need to know cars. But the design staff could rotate. So once I got in with some of their art directors, then I got into the Field and Streams and Outdoor Lives of the world. So that was one way that I started working with them. Like I said, I was painting at the time, and we talked about it on an earlier episode. Like, nobody was paying attention to what I was doing then. I was doing like those old YouTube videos and stuff, and I was just doing it to stay busy, because I knew, like, I cannot sit back and wait on the phone to ring, on people to call me. Like, I've got to be leaning into this. I've got to be pushing forward. I've got to be doing new work all the time. And eventually that really paid off, because when the phone did ring, I had a basket full of work ready to go. I had, and even some of the things that we license today, I painted 10 years ago back in a spare bedroom at Lake Norman when we didn't have anything. I didn't even have a social media account at the time. Well, probably Facebook, but so really my process has been kind of a long, steady grind, basically. I don't miss deadlines. I try not to make promises I can't deliver on, and I've just always been the guy that delivers, and that's kind of how I've made it to where I am.
Yeah.
Not that is the top of the mountain by any means, but it's kept me. I've stayed self-employed for over a decade doing it. So
yeah. I liked in the Seaweed video how I don't remember who it was. Somebody said that you do your work is more like a craft to you. It's not just, and that's what I always try to tell some people too. Is like, you're not just a machine constantly running, but you take the time in your craft and your details. And
I feel like a machine these days.
I know.
We have a lot going on.
Yeah.
But no, and to your point, that's actually a great segue. One thing that's great about you, Madison, is that you like say stuff that's a great segue and you don't even know it.
Really? Oh,
don't
good.
even know it. You really do ask questions like, oh, let's go there. Well, the point of this podcast, the point of the podcast, we're trying to get some stuff dialed in here with the mic. No, it's fine.
Yeah. Zach's got headphones on and he's like, Ryan.
The point of today's episode was to talk about art that sells. And I've actually spoken at entrepreneurial summits here at App State. My wife works there in the College of Business, and they'll have me in as a speaker, entrepreneurial speaker and stuff. And that's a question that always comes up, like why the starving artists? Like, why are artists notorious for sucking at business? Like, why is that? And so I've had to think about it quite a bit myself. And the one thing that I have noticed over the years is that a lot of artists go way too deep into the craft of it. And I'm guilty of that too. Like, there's a lot of me that just wants to be left alone to do my thing and kind of go into my creative space and do my craft and be left alone. But most artists that are unsuccessful, I find they just geek out on the craft way too much. And the people that are buying it, they care about craftsmanship. They don't care that much about craftsmanship. And a lot of artists think that if I just go way too deep into the craft, that people will come. People will recognize it and they'll come in droves. And it just doesn't happen that way. Like, you have to balance delivering, hitting deadlines, providing value to people. You always want your craft to be spot on, and I try as hard as I possibly can to make sure that it is, but you can't forget the accounting, the marketing, the all the stuff that comes with running a business. And if you can't handle that stuff, you just really need to work for somebody else. You need to be a designer, which is fine, but you have to handle the business side. You have to handle the marketing side. You have to be on point. You have to be efficient. You have to be progressing all the time, because if you take 4 months to work on a painting, that may pay off for you. But if you count on a bunch of buyers coming during that time when you're not marketing yourself and you're not putting yourself out there and you're not doing other work, you're just in your cave, you're going to have a hard time. And I've been fortunate enough to see companies release products and move forward and go into new seasons of their business, and that's helped me a lot to realize that and stay on the cutting edge of what I want to do. You've really got to diversify. I think that a lot of we have multiple streams of income here, and we're looking for more all the time. But if you go all in on one thing, there better be a market for that one thing. And I tell people that all the time, like, you know, if you want to paint, you know, pink fuzzy butterflies, that's fine. That's all good. But if there's no market for that, don't expect that buyers to come in droves and pay you for what you think your time is worth if you're not creating a product of value to them. And I feel like the wildlife market has always stayed strong. The Western art market is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's always been strong. It's stronger than it ever has been before. And I think that there's just something in the American spirit that they relate to cowboys and Indians. Like, we just haven't forgotten those days. And we relate to that frontier experience, pushing forward into the unknown. Even though we are more civilized than ever, we want to be more rugged than we've ever been. I don't think that's ever going away. And the cowboy art, the Western big game art, that really ties into our love of the Wild West. So you've really got to think about the market, you know, and we get that all the time too. Like, when I launched the growth and maturity of the whitetail buck, immediately people came out of the woodwork. Can you do one for quail? Can you do one for Roosevelt elk? Can you do one for mule deer? And the reality is you have to think about the size of that market. I don't even know how many deer hunters there are. 13 million, 11 million. It's millions and millions and millions of whitetail deer hunters, because the whitetail has the largest home range. And if you look if you map out the whitetail's range to the United States population range, they're really identical. So your East Coast, your South, you have a high concentration of deer where there's a high concentration of people, which means you're going to have a higher concentration of hunters, which, if you're looking to produce a product, means you have a higher, larger market there. People don't realize how much time and effort and money and energy goes into creating a print like that. Months and months of work. I think I put like 250 hours into the growth and maturity of the whitetail buck. By the time you do the art, the research, the design, the printing, and I hired out the design. And then you put that on a plated press. How about that for the peas? Put that on a plated press. You put that on a plated press, and you know you're thousands of dollars into it, easy, just to the printer bill. So there's a lot of time and money that goes into that stuff. And if you're going to devote that much time and money into it, you better make sure there's a market for it, or you're going to be sitting on 1,000 prints and you just wasted 2 months of your life and 10 grand of money. So, like, if we're going to do a growth and maturity of the Roosevelt elk, I don't know Roosevelt elk that way. I'm going to really have to research that. I'm going to have to find biologists that I trust and really dig into that. And then, how many people hunt Roosevelt elk versus whitetail deer? I don't know, maybe 100,000, if that. Yeah. Well, that's like, 1% or whatever of the market for whitetail deer. You can't go into it, and again, it goes into craft. You could pour your time and effort, everything you've got, into producing a great product, and if there's not enough people that want to buy it, you're just spinning your wheels. Yeah. And a lot of artists don't think that. They think, I'm passionate about this, I'm a great craftsman, I'm going to pour myself into it and be lavished with praise and rewarded for that effort. And the reality is, it may not happen. You have to think about these things ahead of time.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm going to throw an opinion out here.
Do it.
I feel like when you're growing up, going back to trying to figure out what you want to do, everybody tells you as a kid, oh, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. Can you really, though? Like, because if I want to paint pink fuzzy butterflies and you said there's not a market for that, I can't make money off that. So it's like,
and then you're going to be in your parents' house forever.
Right?
Then you're really going to be frustrated.
It's like, it's like I'm going to have to depend on Cole's paycheck or something. So it's just kind of like, can you really do anything that you want?
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna tell Rhett and Brooklyn, our kids, we live in a world where if you're the best at what you do, you can make a good money doing anything you want. I mean, you can make a killing at it, especially like even a lot of the trades now, electrician, plumbers. I mean, you can make a killing, but you have to be good at it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is like you have to be good at it. And I think that and I get that asked that all the time too. How much of it's just God-given ability? How much of it's learned? And I haven't sat down and thought about it that much. I'd say probably 30-40% of it's God-given ability, and the rest is learned and talent or learned and grit and timing. Timing makes a difference too. So, and everybody thinks, oh, it's easy. You've got talent. And I say, look at how many talented people fail in the NFL every single day. How many Heisman Trophy winners make it a couple years in the league and then they're a third string backup after that? Talent does not guarantee anything. In fact, sometimes it can be a curse because people get arrogant or think they've got it made, or they can always rely on their talent or their ability. You know, if you're a professional athlete, you're going to get older. You better have some smarts about you. You better take care of yourself. You better be smart about it. And it's the idiots that just think they can ride on talent alone.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but like Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, that dude was freaking most talented guy ever on the football field. Yeah. And it always fascinates me too to look at NFL players going out of college and seeing who makes it and who doesn't. And it really is. There's a lot to it. Your mindset matters. Like sometimes quarterback's just not a good fit for a place or a team, and it doesn't work out. So there's so much more to it than talent. Yeah. And the talent thing is just, I think it's overused. I think it's used as an excuse for a lot of people. Oh, well, I don't have talent. I'm not good at this. Like, I don't feel good at it at all. Like, people think I've got a load of talent, but I feel like I suck every single day. And I'm just figuring this out as I go. And I'm not kidding you. I finish a painting and it's like, whew, I made it through that one. What am I going to do now? You know? Yeah. And it's like, oh, I made it through one more painting without an epic failure. How am I going to muster the courage to do this again and not let people down and let myself down? Yeah. I face that every single day of my life. And that stuff just doesn't really ever go away. Yeah. And a lot of people think that that's more the mark of maturity and real talent, is when you feel like, I don't know if I'm good enough, I've got to keep pushing myself. You know, if you walk in thinking I'm the best that ever lived, you're not there yet. You haven't been humbled yet by life or anything. And so, but the mindset is a lot to it. But again, the biggest thing is there has to be a market for what you want to do, and you have to fill that market. And you've heard me talk all the time about, one thing I've learned in my advertising days, and I feel like I'm pretty good at, is we can sit here and have all the opinions in the world of what we think is awesome and what we think is going to work, but we really have to put ourselves in the shoes of our customer and evaluate whether or not it's going to be successful. And then you got to take some risk and try it. You'll never know for sure. But you hear me say all the time, like, what would our customer want? Put yourselves in the shoes of our customer. Just like we've got Sketch Drop, shameless plug, coming out. Sketch Drop coming out on the 6th, and we were like, we were trying to evaluate how to ship it. And one of my concerns is, what is the consumer gonna feel? That's always a big thing of me. When they receive my art, our product, what are they going to think and feel and see? How is that experience? Because that, a lot of times, is their first physical impression of buying something of ours. And I'm always big on that. What are they going to see? What's their first impression? What's the presentation like? And we were curious on well, if we ship it in this envelope, what's it going to look like when it gets there? So what did we do? We shipped that thing to Kansas and shipped it back. So we know what that thing is going to look like. We know what it looks like coming out of the studio, but it doesn't matter what it looks like coming out of the studio. It only matters what it is like when it's delivered to the customer.
Yeah.
And that's what I care about more than anything. And same thing with our growth and maturity prints and wild turkey prints and waterfowl. Those things are really popular ahead of the holidays. And when we get busy, a lot of times we have seasonal help that comes in and they pre-roll the prints so they can just stick those things in the tube and get them out, because we're filling, 30, 40, 50 orders a day, and that's a lot to get out. But I'm okay with that temporarily, but I do not want a pre-rolled print sitting there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because that's heavyweight archival paper, and from a consumer standpoint, I want it to be like fresh food, like it was rolled and shipped. And ideally it goes from a flat storage to being rolled and shipped and in their hands in a couple of days. And that paper has memory. And if it sits for a month rolled up, I don't want that customer getting the print out and then it's like they try to roll it flat and it curls back up on them and they have to lay books out. You want a certain amount of that, like, Hallmark reaction on Christmas morning of the little kids that run into the living room and there's a bike with a bow on it, or car commercials now. I've never seen anybody deliver a freaking car to their spouse with a bow on it for Christmas.
And the wife gets a puppy.
Exactly. Maybe it happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
But every car company does it. But you want a little bit of that. You want some of that. You want people's eyes to light up. You want them to be happy about it. You don't want them to have to set books on the print for a month before they take it to get framed, because it's got to unroll. And I'm to the point where it's almost a little too obsessive, too much. Maybe I get too conservative, but I really want people to have a great experience when they buy our stuff. And that's one reason we did the triangle shipping tubes. They're not really tubes. I don't know why I say that. I call them triangle shipping tubes, which is physically impossible.
I call them custom tube. But
custom tube.
Whatever.
But what happened was I thought I had a great idea, but it didn't play out in reality. We had custom printed cardboard tubes like you would do a regular shipping tube. And they look cool. They were a pain in the butt to inventory because you had to physically carry them in and build a frame, a stack for them, a bin for them. The FedEx guys hated them. Hated them. Because when we got busy, we'd ship 20, 30, 40 of them. And if they're carrying those tubes out by an armload and they drop one, that sucker rolls across the parking lot or down the driveway forever. It rolls forever. If they got hit in the middle, they would just crumple. They'd look like a taco, and then the print's ruined. We've got to send the customer a new one. And so eventually we were just having issues with them, and I was like, man, what am I going to do about this? And then I had to go ship some proofs for a Winchester catalog secondary air overnight. And I go to the UPS store, and I get this triangle, and the dude folds it up in front of me, puts the thing in and ships it. And I was like, there's it. That's it. If anybody knows how to ship thing, it's UPS. I mean, surely they've got the logistics worked out on this thing. So I took the template, I broke a UPS box down, and then from my design days and kind of engineering days, was able to recreate the template for that, put all my art on it, put the branding on it, and we got those custom printed. And we order them, I think we have to order like 4,000 is what we ordered last time. Yeah. But the beauty of them is they lay flat. You can stack them to the ceiling. And then when you need one, you take it down and fold it and go on. They don't roll. They're really lightweight. They're sturdy. We don't have a lot of packages damaged anymore. And the only drawback is that they're very recognizable. And we sometimes have a spouse that buys as a surprise gift for like her husband, and he sees the thing when he gets home and knows exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's one of the complaints that we've had, is that people are like, it ruined the surprise.
Aw.
So we put on the product page like, hey, if you want this to be a surprise, do not ship this to your house.
Yeah.
'Cause you will not miss it.
Yeah. We had the guy call yesterday about all the, I guess he was in Arkansas or Tennessee or something,
Yeah.
about all the tornadoes. Shout out to Rachel, our warehouse manager, for
Exactly.
being an amazing packer and packaging and framing girl. Like, she can do it.
She's got it buttoned up. She is probably, you want to talk about a machine. She's
Yeah.
a machine. She is probably the best like packer framer I've ever seen. We literally, since she came on, we've had way fewer damaged orders, which damaged orders suck. They suck for the customer, because nobody wants to get that and have to reach out. But we try to bend over backwards to accommodate when their packages are damaged, but it is costly to us. It's a costly mistake. So I always say, like, we got to try to get ahead of that. But Rachel, like, since she's come on, like, the damaged orders we have are tremendously lower since she's been here. And we had a guy leave a voicemail the other day. Mad Dog deleted it though.
I'm so sorry. If you're listening, sir, I loved your voicemail.
Whoever you are,
you didn't say your name, but it was awesome. We all 5 of us were like, yeah.
We need to go back. We probably need to go back. If you remember relatively where he was from,
Yeah.
we need to go back in our shipping records and see.
Yeah.
But he was in a tornado, and apparently his roof got blown off, I guess.
It,
like
blew
a
stuff off
legit
the house.
tornado.
Yeah.
And the package was blown across the street, and it was still intact, and the print was fine.
He said it was
inside
sopping wet, corners were damaged. I assume it was a framed thing.
Could have been.
I think it was a framed canvas, and those things are heavy.
Yeah.
So that means that wind took it really far.
And they can damage the easiest, because if they
Yeah.
get popped on a corner and the corner separates, the whole thing is done.
Yeah.
But Rachel bubble wraps those very well, very tidy. We wrap them in plastic, like a big plastic sleeve,
Yes,
I guess is
saran
the
wrap.
best way.
Yeah.
So that if it does get wet and it gets left on a front step and it gets rained on, obviously the cardboard's going to get wet. And if you don't have that thing protected inside, the frame's going to get wet, the print's going to get wet, and it's going to be ruined. So, and a lot of that stuff is trial and error over years. We have learned that, but a lot of it is really trying to produce a great product, because I know my stuff's not cheap. I get it, but we really try to produce a great product. There was one story we had years ago, and my stance on customer service is pretty much no questions asked. If we drop the ball, we need to make it right with them, and we need to make it right quick. And we've all had crappy customer service experiences, and every time I leave one of those, I'm like, we are never going to be that way. We're going to be better than that. So we had, it was the year of COVID. It was 2020, and shipping was crazy that Christmas, because everybody was buying online and shipping for really a huge volume for the first time ever, because we were locked down in COVID. And we had about 20 prints that were stuck in a USPS shipping center in Raleigh. And it was like December 15th, 17th, and these things had shipped out like December 1st for Christmas gifts. And they were just stuck there. And there was nothing we could do. There was a pile of stuff stuck in that warehouse. We called in, and all of our buyers, we tracked down the 15, 20 prints that we had stuck at that facility. And I told Austin, who was working for me at the time, ship everybody a new one right now, no questions asked, because they were Christmas gifts, and we knew it. And that order was stuck, but it was just kind of a fluke. So we knew the next orders would get through just fine. So without even being prompted, we shipped all those people new prints to make sure they had something for Christmas, knowing that we were probably going to lose those in the shipping center. And the coolest thing ever happened, everybody that got their print said they loved it so much they wanted to pay us for the second one that arrived like January, the first week of January, because eventually they got that backlog cleaned up in Raleigh and everybody got them. So they got the Christmas gift, they were happy, and they voluntarily reached out and said, "Hey, I got the second one that was stuck. I want to give it to my buddy and I want to pay you guys for it," and we appreciate it.
That gives me hope in humanity.
I'm glad we improved your day. But really, like that is, and you know, we have some knockoffs, we have people complain about price, we have all that kind of stuff. And what I tell people is, though, you don't value that kind of customer service until you need it, and then it sucks because you're out of luck. You know, we've had a couple foreign knockoffs, and my lawyer shuts them down, but it takes a few days to do it. And we've had people that buy the knockoff, and it's a crappy product. It sucks. It's broken. And we've done such a good job of branding it that people associate the growth and maturity with me. And they'll send me a message on social saying, "Hey, man, I got this product, and it sucks, and it's damaged." And I'm like, "Dude, you didn't buy it from us. Mm-hmm. Like, you might have seen it multiple times and then thought you were getting a deal on it, but you bought it from a counterfeit. And I'm sorry, man, but you're out of luck, and there's nothing I can do for you." And they're pissed because obviously the foreign knockoff isn't going to provide customer service.
Right.
They just took your money and ran.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And honestly, that's why I fight the counterfeits so much, is because they're screwing people than anybody. Obviously, it hurts us, but like, they're screwing people, and that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because they think it's us.
Yeah,
you know?
and then they'll come to chomping at us, and we're like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. I've had numerous people comment on our ads on social about it, and it's like, dude, you didn't buy it from us.
But shout out to our people, because I get the messages that'll be like, "Hey, I saw this on Facebook, and this is crap. I know this isn't you. I'm sure you'll take it down or try and get it taken down." So y'all that follow us and follow Ryan, y'all are awesome. You're doing great. Thanks for having our back.
Yeah, because a lot of times that is great, and that is one thing that we have a really loyal following, and it's awesome. But people will what they'll do is they'll run ads on Facebook. They don't have a product page. The product doesn't exist in the digital world, but they'll run an ad that'll link directly to the page. And so unless someone sends us the ad with the link in it, we can't find the product.
Right.
And so that's what people do, and that's what we need them to do, is say, "Hey, man, these people are knocking you off, ripping people off. Send us the link, and we get them taken down." Yep. And then they pop up.
Well, I want to read this email that I got from a customer that was talking about your work, just because it's so, I won't say their name or anything, but it's just so moving. I got this back, like, literally, I think the Monday after I started. But it was, this guy said, "Ryan, I'm sure that you get messages like this all the time. The work that you do is not only amazing, but beautiful. I was first introduced to it when I bought a hat at a Dick's Sporting Goods store. It just had a deer on it, but it caught my eye, and I really liked the sketch. Fast forward a few long, hard years, short story of it all was 8 years of miscarriages with my wife, until later we have a healthy boy who is now almost 2. While on a trip to Tractor Supply, the little boy came across a sign showing an American original whitetail buck. Once again, the drawing of the deer looked very familiar to me and similar to my hat. His room is set up as a woods hunting theme, so we had to get it. It wasn't until I realized that your name is on it and on my hat, and I realized why I loved it so much. He points at it all the time, saying, 'Deer, deer,' along with, 'ooh.' So you now have 2 lovers and followers who enjoy your artwork. We look forward to others to add and the experiences and learn from before I can take him on his first hunt. Thank you."
That's cool.
That's dope.
Dope?
Just so everybody
Is that what
knows.
kids say these days?
Just so everybody
Fire?
knows. We love stuff like that.
Yeah, and that, you know, you asked about products, why we do products. And I really, all of our stuff is product, but when you talk about things like signs, prints, posters, that's more of a home decor decorative product than an original oil painting hanging over the mantle, and that's why we do it. honestly,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Is because I just really want to contribute to the atmosphere of hunt camp. And I want that 2-year-old pointing at a deer and learning some stuff from it too.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can, there's a lot of artists that can just paint a deer, but I feel like there's not a lot that can combine some of the educational stuff and the facts and biology with the art the way that we do. And that's the most rewarding part of it to me.
Yeah.
So
I think so. Well, that's all I have.
that's all I got.
It's been an hour.
An hour?
We've talked for an hour.
Well, the first probably 15 minutes of it were fluff.
Well, it's going to be cut out.
But yeah, thanks for joining us. Sketch Drop.
April 6th.
Thursday, April 6th. Our very first ever Sketch Drop. And it's going to be awesome. We got a lot of cool stuff coming.
I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
It'll be good.
Thanks, everybody.